You're on mute. Are you muted?
It should be. Yep, I am unmuted. All right. Hello.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm Ron. I'm the speaker.
Ankit. Yeah.
Okay. Nice to meet you. Have a seat. All right. I see some more friendlies coming. Oh, wait a second. So where'd you drive in from?
Fremont.
Oh, man. You didn't take a boat?
Take a boat?
Don't you want to sail over? Isn't
Take a
Fremont
boat?
on the other side?
I don't have my own boat.
Oh, come on.
Is there a
What? We
is
should
there
get one.
even a pier?
Optional. You can run aground.
Pier optional. Why don't I swim?
You do it all.
No.
All right, I guess we're good to go. Let's get this party started. All right, we're gonna get it started.
I parked across the street to Ag, and it seemed to be the closest park.
Good morning, everyone. Hello.
Hi, Ron.
Hello, Greg. Do I need this, or can I live without it?
No, you need it.
I do need it.
Is it
Oh,
being
man.
recorded? Do you need it for the recording? YouTube?
That's recording, totally separate of this. All right.
Well, hopefully they don't nitpick if it's an hour 15 or something.
Yeah, I'm the problem.
Yeah. That's okay if we get total, bill you.
Yes.
I'm joking.
All right.
That was not recorded.
That was not recorded. All right, thank you everyone for coming. Kudos to Yane and Isabella and everyone who's out in the hall for allowing us to be here today at the huddle. The huddle, for those who don't quite know the arrangement, is part of the Google Visitor Experience. This is actually my first time being here. Looking forward to checking it out. This is just for anybody logistics. The stores are open till 5 o'clock. So if you want to go to the Google store, because I was lost trying to park, there's lots of statues around, I have found. So if you want to just walk around and see some cool things, there's plenty of cool things to enjoy. So we're very happy to be here. All right, so we're just going to kick it off with a game show. All right, so let's play Is It a Technical Society? Association for Computing Machinery.
Yes. So do we applause if we think yes? And
Correct. I'm only so good with slides. I can only. All right. Any dissension?
all good. Good time to silence our phones.
All right. Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers.
Yes.
All right. Correct.
IEEE being the more readily known acronym.
Tried to trick people. All right. All right. David, you're up.
You want somebody to read it?
Yeah.
Société Française d'Ingénierie des Air.
I would slaughter that. I grew up in Kentucky. We do not speak French. Okay, society or not? I love it. Just make it French and it's official.
Finally, the woman in the front was correct.
Yeah, was she finally right. The one time OpenAI or DALL-E generated what we needed.
Wait, but dessert, and it's got engineering in it. I mean, come on, what are we missing here?
Yes, we should put two and two together. We create it now.
Was it just made up?
It was made up. And it took a surprising amount of time to make one that was somewhat convincingly not a society.
The Dessert Engineering Society really existed.
It probably does. I probably just insulted 1,000 years of tradition. All right, what about our own internet society?
Sure.
Yeah. I guess that one was a giveaway. I guess if you come with banners, it must be real. Okay. All right, this is for you. Is anyone here in a technical society?
Yes.
Okay. Is anyone not? And the Venn diagram of that, who didn't raise their hand? All right.
I've been thinking.
Thinking. For those who are not,
You're missing out.
yeah, you're missing out. And by tonight, or hopefully by 3. Just by 3. Just by 3. Not tonight.
Gotta set short-term deadlines.
That's right. Yes. All right. If you, I don't know, what is it called when you have a seizure because of lights?
Epileptic.
If you have that, close your eyes now, please.
Oh, stroke?
YOLO. Watch out. All right. I was playing around with Google image search on Google Slides to make something, and so it came up with this thing. And the original color scheme, I couldn't take it. So anyway, I thought it was still cool enough to keep. All right, so this is why we're here. To kind of paraphrase this, there's a lot, there's one of you. There's a lot of things happening in the world. One of the ways we can influence the world is through things like technical societies. A lot of times people may join and they sit on the sidelines. Other times they don't even know how to join. And then other times you're just too busy, you just don't even know what your options are, right? There's plenty of groups out there doing lots of good work. There's also a lot of groups that need help. And so my goal as a member of a lot of different groups is to just really to drum up more active volunteers. It's good to be on the sidelines, to just see what's going on, to just be a watcher or a lurker, as they say on the internet. But hopefully we'll get you to take that next step in some of these groups. So that's me. One of the benefits of being in these groups is you get these great swag with the name of the group on it. So that's something you don't want to miss, right? So I'm a member of even more groups, and it's not to brag. The reality is I'm basically every week doing something with these top 3 groups. So I can speak with some authority on those. Other groups, there's just different levels of interaction, right? The ARRL, I do my monthly check-in with the SFRC, which is the San Francisco Radio Club. Been around for 115 years, right? It's kind of crazy to think we're getting into the century mark for meetups, right, for certain groups. And so we're going to talk in some depth about some of these groups, partly because of my own experience. Also because some members here in the audience also have experience in some of these groups and others. And so hopefully as we go through these, you'll see some of the challenges and opportunities of these groups, how you can participate, what are they doing, and what are the challenges that they really need help with. So again, if you don't see a group up here, it doesn't mean I didn't want to put it there. I just, we don't have time for everything. Again, what we want from you is your time, your talent, your treasure. The time isn't a huge commitment, right? You can just take a task, and that's probably, if I could say anything right now, there's a long-term vision you may want to execute through these groups, but if you just want to help the groups, there's just tactical things you can do, and it doesn't have to be necessarily their core mission, right? I'll just say it. Most of my work, being the chair of the local ACM and the chair of the local Internet Society, is doing marketing. nothing to do with building some new model or this or that. It's mostly marketing. And that ranges from emailing, meeting people, getting sponsors, all these kinds of things. Is it what I actually want to do? Not really. But I know it will keep it going until the next person comes through who can do that, and I will move on to the next thing, right? And that's the key. You gotta find what you want, but you also have to be willing to help with what the group wants and needs. You can't just do whatever you want, or else it's not much of a group. Your talents can, these are technical societies we're talking about. The talents can range from, of course, just managing the website, or it could be giving a workshop, right? Teaching something. We have some members here from our student chapters that just ran a hackathon. We got Greg here who teaches all the time. There's all kinds of ways you can share the talent that you have along with the time. And then the treasure, of course, is donations. Most of these groups are 501(c)(3)s. They need money sometimes to do what they need. You'd be surprised how much you can do with no money. This was free. I mean, everybody had to pay gas. Thank you very much for coming. You had to pay gas to get here. So it did cost you treasure. But the reality is to put this on for this particular instance was free. We got the space for free. And that comes with being recognized. These groups get recognized for what they do, and they provide some benefit to, in this case, to Google and the community. And that's why we got here. All right. So what is a technical society? Anyone know what this is? Picture is? Yeah, and that is? Star Wars. Yeah, Star Wars, right? So the city planet, right? So as we evolve from an agrarian society to something more technical, are we going to look like a bunch of Salesforce towers? We will find out. All right, so how did we even get here, right? So we have problems that need to get solved. Some things are political, some things are technical, sometimes they're both. I was trying to think of things here in the Bay that have happened over the last 100, 200 years of, not too controversial, right? There used to not be a bridge, right? And who benefited from there not to being a bridge?
Ferry operator.
That's right, the ferry operators. Now, related to that, do we still have ferries?
Yep.
So they weren't wiped out. Are they as maybe profitable as they would have been without it? Probably not. So there's a balance to be reached, right? So you got the old guard, you got the new guard, you have technology that's evolving. I mean, think about it. The Golden Gate Bridge is pretty impressive, right? Monstrous bridge, came out of nowhere, 1937, 38?
Or earlier, in the early 30s.
Yeah, they had to start building, and that's actually to the point. Who engineered it? Right, it didn't just show up, right? That means if you think about it, the engineering, the technical aspects of this was coming decades before, right? The first real suspension bridges back in like the, 1860s, 1870s, right? All led to these kinds of things, and then boom, we end up something like this. And so this wasn't the work of one person. Usually there's a figurehead to anything just to keep the conversation focused and simple, but usually there is a whole, not even just one, many societies are coming together to put this on, right? You got the people who don't want the bridge, right? You got the people who just want to use it. You have the people who want to engineer it. You have the people who want to regulate it, right? To gatekeep it, hence the Golden Gate. We want to manage these groups and their efforts to come out with some optimal solution. So plenty of groups, plenty of challenges. That's really what we're here to kind of thread the needle about. All right, so some innovation comes out of what it seems like nowhere, but this is a relative term out of the blue. If you were in computers in 1970, you probably weren't surprised when 1971 happened, right? But if you weren't in computers in 1970, you were like, oh my God, like what is this thing, right? Like out of the blue, right? The World Wide Web became more common. GPS was a big one, right? Anyone ever look into the old school style things before GPS that gave you directions? Map. Map, yeah. Between map and GPS, there was some somewhat automation there. some crazy jumps in functionality. But again, you can start to think these things have to get managed in some way from a production point of view, from a consumption point of view, from a waste point of view, right? When you're done with your computer, what do you do with it? And some things are currently evolving. So these kind of one-off events from a general public point of view has an impact. So let me ask you real quick, from a computer, like forget being too historical or even too much in the future, what is good about computers today? Like what's their main benefit to you?
Storage.
Pictures, files, just
Use your mouse.
for work, for home, for everything. Yeah, storage is a big one.
My entire life is on the computer.
Tired. It is me. I'm not here. I'm an avatar of my PC at home, right? So it's a great tool, right? Is maybe one way to think about it. It's the Swiss Army knife, right? It does lots of things for us, from storage to all these other things, right? What's really bad about it? Everything's good and everything's bad, right?
Time sucker.
So that's one that really affects us. Like for all the different technical groups here, right, is the bad things that could happen. Now, so I do a lot of teaching as well. When I teach like a security class, usually the first thing we'll mention is why are we even here? Most of the reason you're in for security is not because of computers, it's because people suck, right? They have bad parents, right? If they had raised good kids, we wouldn't be hacking each other every day, right? So a lot of it is a personnel problem, right? The users of computers. So is it really the computer's fault? We can fight all day long on how to encrypt something, but if you don't change people's attitudes about why they're hacking you, now some people are just going to be bad, right? They're just going to hack you, and that's just the way it's going to be. But there's lots of people who do things they don't necessarily want to do. Can we persuade those people to not be bad actors? And we can only do so much to actually protect ourselves. This never-ending game. All right. Okay, so a lot of this comes in different periods of time. So we're going to go through some slides going backwards. So today, again, this is somewhat opinionated by me. In recent years, we've got AI, right? It's really rocking the boat, as it were. What is good about AI today? Nothing?
Getting much more flexible, not so brittle, more general use.
Like why? Like, is there any specifics? Just
Well, the GPTs and things like that.
just stability in the answers. We're not just getting random hallucinations all the time, and
Yeah.
yeah. So it's just functionally better.
Well, but better
More
understanding
consistent.
some of the concepts.
Okay.
So-
Yep. Reasoning and things. Yep.
Can be like a work multiplier.
Yeah. Force multiplier. 100%. It's a tool. All right. What's bad about it?
It enables a lot of spam. Like easy text generation enables a tremendous amount of spam to be written on the internet, destroys useful information.
That's right. And if actually, just to give a little concrete details behind that, the FBI puts out the IC3 report, IC2 report every quarter. And the number one thing of all the crimes that they track, phishing was already the worst. And now since 2022, November, it is now exponentially the worst crime. And the main reason they have tracked is in Russia and in China, you do not need to know English anymore. You can write compelling things in your native tongue, translate it to English, which kind of leads us to the next thing operationally on that. Why English? Why is most of the phishing in the world targeted towards specifically America?
It's more money to steal.
Yes, a little more nuance, the right point. We have more money, but it's because we pay. So like in Europe, it's largely illegal to pay. Like if you get ransomware, you'll get fined again by the regulators if you pay the criminals, right? In the US, we don't do that. And that's why we're the main.
Europe is illegal to pay a ransom?
Generally speaking, yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
I did not know that.
Yes.
AI also gives students escape hatches from their
That's right. I don't need to learn anymore. AI just does it for me. And that's a real problem, right? I have a kid who's in middle school. David has a kid in middle school. And they're like, well, what are we supposed to do if computers do it all and robots do it all? And it's actually a real thing. It's like, because it takes years to train. You know, if you believe in just the 10,000 hours of doing anything, right? You know, that takes time, and what will you be doing? I'm pretty optimistic myself. I think it's a tool, just like any other tool. It's all shock and awe for now because it's new, right? 2 years is still new. 3 years is still new. It's going to take a while, but I think in the end, it's still going to just be a tool. It may not be clear though how, right, in the long run for the vast majority. So the societies have to work on this. So I'll just mention some concrete examples. So ACM generally would be considered, if I try to slice and dice this, a learned society, right? It's meant for professional development. They may do things occasionally like political lobbying, like try to educate a senator here or there, but really it's more about education, right? What would they care about this? Well, there's a ACM SIG for AI, and there it would be largely around educational goals like how to learn and do things like that. Again, there's more, but that's their kind of focus. Now you go to the Internet Society, they have an AI SIG, which is new. And I mean, I'll just spare the details here. So demystify this. The AI SIG is fairly new and just in all aspects. There's only a few people involved. They're still trying to figure out what it is they're trying to produce as a special interest group for the Internet Society. And so like one of those things is it's become clear we need to create a report for the Internet Society so they can have like a unified statement on AI or thoughts on AI, right? The people who run the Internet Society, like any corporation, they don't have time to do everything themselves, right? They rely on SIGs that are specialized to educate them as well, right? And so those are the kinds of things we need people to join. You don't even have to be an expert. Just as an example, I don't have a PhD in ML or AI, but I'm in the SIG for AI. And really, I'm just doing field studies. I'm literally just reading everything I can, talking to everybody I can, seeing what the trends are, and that's it. I'm just basically a big old field study and try to distill it. Now, of course, we got AI to help us with that a little bit, right? Using the thing we're talking about. But that's the idea, right? How do we make something useful to share and influence the people we're in this society with, right? And then ultimately, they take that information and go further, right? Make policy for the outsiders to use or for even us as members of the Internet Society to do. So again, different things. One could be education focused. One could be more policy. You know, we try to give advice to other groups to teach them. All right, going back further, we had this transition. So what was good about VHS versus DVD versus streaming? Kind of a continuum, but
Quality, availability increases.
quality, availability, yep, those are all pluses.
Resolution,
Yeah,
ease of access.
right. Speed, you didn't like rewinding?
Real time. I meant real time.
Yeah, I'm looking around, probably most people never did this. Yeah, that's bad. Or well, I guess depends on which side of the coin you're on. who's good or bad. Right. So if you start to think about like technical societies, where may they fit into this? Well, the IEEE, right? Wi-Fi, probably something you've heard of, 802.11, right? The standards to produce that, like that's a group that very much is an amalgamation of many things. They are a learned society, right? They do career development as well. They also impact people in policy as well. A huge operation, right? And one of the things they do is generate technical specs through their various efforts, and Wi-Fi being one of them. Of course, Wi-Fi didn't just show up right out of the blue. That took years, many groups over time. And some of these efforts are now over 100 years old. So it's not like the same person, even the groups have disappeared, right? But yet these things march on, and it happens because people are paying attention to how these things work and participate. All right, going back a little, maybe not further, but same time frame. We went from landlines to smartphones. What was good here in the old school landlines?
You could lease the phone to the customer.
Okay, lease to the customer. So again, opposite side of the coin. We got our business representative back here.
You could put it down.
You could spy on your kids, right, on the other room.
You could threaten your kids with not letting them use it.
What's a technical group that came out of this that pretty much changed the world?
The Justice Department, they broke up Mongo.
All right, well, that's the second. That's part two. What was part one?
Bell Telephone Labs.
Yeah, the labs that created all this stuff, right? Absolutely incredible to see all that how that happened. Great read on that. And what do you have now? What's different here? Is it the same thing? Is it different?
Basically, have a small personal computer.
It's so multifunction, the phone is only a small part of it. Yeah, lots of functions.
Yeah, I would argue most people don't use it for a phone anymore, right? But it does subsume what we had before. Is any of this still around?
I got one at home.
Someone,
Yeah. What's happening to all the cables?
I mean, fiber optic and then, downgraded.
Yeah. So this just, again, as back to society, right? There is still a need for landlines, right? There's still places where you can't get other options. I mean, to be clear, you always can get other options. It's just a high bar to get those options. Yes.
so as an historian, and if I say something and somebody knows it's wrong, feel free to correct me.
Yeah.
So we had this Cold War thing going on, and the government didn't want to trust the telephone lines for launching. So they created the ARPANET. And that helped create everything we're talking about today. And recently, Ma Bell or Bell Telephone or whatever, whoever's controlling it, wanted to get rid of the landlines in Palo Alto.
Right.
And the elderly people said, no, not yet, we're not dead yet. Don't take our phone. We want our gun and our phone in
Yeah.
our garage.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's
all true.
interesting how all this changes.
Yeah. And about 1980, break up the Bell system, and that started, a whole
That's right.
ratcheting down from there.
Right. No, it's a great story. That's true. That's right.
I mean, that phone on the left, I worked at Bell Labs. That was made to last 20 years and could be dropped from a third floor was our test for that phone. That ain't happening anymore. Now they want to sell a new phone all the time.
So I also just learned how to turn on the mic. So there's that. So let me ask you about this though. We got the multifunction. So from a good and bad, what's the non-phone things here we're concerned about, good and bad?
Social camera, tracking out.
Camera, social media, all these.
Spending.
Yeah.
Security.
Yeah. So if you would have asked that question back in, I don't know, maybe 2015 or so, probably the main thing people would be interested in was the store, right? The app store, right? Because that's the multitude of new functionality, right? That we have is that app store. And of course, that's also highly contested today, right? So now Apple, in theory, has to open up to other storefronts, I guess, as it were. I'm not an expert in that, but again, that stuff may be fought by corporate entities, but very much of note and interest to the societies as well. It could range from just security, like, it could be like, we don't want bad software, that's why we don't allow it, this and that. Well, maybe the security experts over here will deal with that. Or maybe it's about commerce, right? And costs and things like that. And these guys will have more of a keen interest in that, right? So again, different groups will tend to focus on different things. Unfortunately, some of these groups are so large, it's not always clear what they focus on, right? And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it does make it hard to get involved when you don't know where to go. Couple more of these. So another transition. I guess I can say this. Originally, this talk was Video Killed the Radio Star, but then that got shot down. Can I say that? So it was about this. It was about again, this transition, right? So what did we lose from this transition? And what did we gain? Yeah, I haven't had a War of the Worlds moment. I mean, we had Bird Box at Netflix. Yeah, people getting together, fixed time, right? We had that we had fixed schedules on TV, up until streaming, but it is different, right? I always love that video where it went to color TV from, it was black and white, then it switched to color back in the 70s. Yeah, there's a lot of history in the Bay about this particular technology, right? If you go around, there's all kinds of vacuum tube legacy here, right? And on the East Coast, but a lot here is what brought us the modern shape of it. And then even the TV, Philos Farnsworth, right? He had his research lab on Telegraph Hill, right? There's a big plaque. If I got the story, correct me if I'm wrong, but real quick, his story is as a middle schooler, he worked on a farm, and he was inspired. He would read like physics things, magazines, books, whatever, and he took note that farming, you go zigzagging across the field, and he's like, he put 2 and 2 together. He's like, oh, you can shoot a laser, or what? Well, not called a laser, I guess back then, but you could control the beam, on it, CRT, right? Kind of apparatus. So then he wrote down the design when he got to high school, gave the napkin to his physics teacher, and that was about the end of it. Goes off, becomes an adult, invents it. Westinghouse spies on him without him knowing it. He sends a representative to learn about it. He's actually there to copy it. End up in court. This is decades later. The physics teacher comes to court, and he's about to lose the case to Westinghouse, and he's like, no, we have prior art. Here's the napkin from when he was in high school. And they threw out the case, and he won. So anyway, he's in San Francisco. There's a statue of him over in the Presidio at the Starbucks, if you want to check it out, holding the tube that he created. So he was also a member of the predecessor group of the merger of the IEEE, and presumably maybe even IEEE. I'm not quite sure of the timeline there, but
About when did IEEE start?
the 50s, I think, is when they merged with. Does that sound right? There's two groups came together, and I think that was in the 50s. But the main group that you could have just said was IEEE had been like 1880s or whatever. Yeah. What's
1963.
60 years? Okay.
But that's the merger. I mean, this stuff went on way before.
Yeah, the bulk of what became the IEEE they'd been in existence. Same thing with the ACM. The ACM was the Eastern Association for Computing Machinery, and then they became more universal. Another transition, we got Sleepless in Seattle and email. So what's good and bad here? This is actually two systems that still kind of need to exist, right? Unlike some of the other things where you don't necessarily have to have the first thing, right? Here we still do, right? Presumably because of physical. Maybe one day we'll have teleportation, and then maybe they're merged, right? But we'll see how that goes. So do these groups get involved with these kinds of things? Well, at different levels. I mean, there's been academic competitions for best routing of mail. Here, of course, we do have lots of regulations now, right? Back in 2012, CAN spam. Like in Canada, if you were caught, the rule was if you were caught spamming, each spam, not the list, each one is a $100,000 fine, right? And so if there's such a strong law, why didn't they use it? Like, I think one person,
Hard to get prosecuted.
yeah, one company who was annoying enough was actually charged, but ultimately that didn't slap on the wrist compared to what it should have been. So the rules that are created are influenced to some degree by these groups. I know a little bit about SMTP in this world. I used to run an ESP, which is an email service provider, and this is like a Gmail, Hotmail kind of thing. And these groups, they also influence, right? For business purposes, of course. But for them, they want the political backing because then it's their problem, right? They're part of society too, right? I don't want to have to sue you. I just want to tell the DA to sue you, right? That's why you want things that affect your business in law, right? You want the buddy on your side, right? You don't want it to be on the other team, right? So it's not just these groups that are trying to influence politicians. It's also, of course, corporate entities. Okay, maybe the last one here. Vaudeville, what do we gain and lose here?
Mass distribution of media, I guess.
Is that good or bad?
Good or bad?
We'll go with good. We enjoy it. Maybe not Pirate Bay, right? Maybe not Silk Road, but I don't know much to say here. This is on its maybe last legs, right? So people are trying to come up with unique ways to keep cinemas going. So in this world, where did the tech societies fall into this? Back then, it was a lot of the tech itself, right? A lot of individual efforts. But then when it comes to the distribution, people try to lock down the markets, right? Like not here, but part of this, the light bulb cartel, right? They tried to lock down the light bulb market, rig the pricing, right? In fact, it was such a cartel that they said that you cannot go over 1,000 hours for the members of the cartel. If anybody makes a light bulb go more than 1,000 hours, they were fined by the cartel, right? And the reason is light bulbs were too good. They were lasting 10 times as long, and they don't make any money that way, right? And so again, there's those kinds of things that are happening. We take some of it for granted, we're enjoying it, but there are things behind the scenes as mundane as controlling the light bulb happening. Okay, I keep saying there's one more. All right, I'll just add one thing here. So for our poor horse friends here, this was not only the first time, and this wasn't the last time horses were affected. Thank you, ChatGPT, for messing this up. Shouldn't have a car here. Later, when cars showed up, horses got affected by that again, right? Apparently, I don't know if this is 100% true. I am a San Francisco transplant, but apparently a lot of the housing, when it was built, was meant to support horses. Like where you have garages now, they're kind of shaped in such a way that it's like, I don't know, your stable, your pen, right? There's actually still, I live by the Palace of Fine Arts, if you know where that is. There's still horse parking things, whatever they call them, right? Along the street. So you still see these little vestiges of the old, but a lot of tech groups are invested in these kinds of things too. Now, of course, with California, we got the bullet train wannabe, and we'll see if that ever actually happens. Okay, from a pure point of tech, we've got wired to Wi-Fi. Who's this guy? Graham Bell. Who's this guy?
Marconi.
Yeah, Marconi. And who's that guy?
Mark Zuckerberg.
Was he even born yet? I would have said the MySpace guy. What's his name? Kevin? Tom? Yeah, Tom. Like, I'm your friend, your one and only friend. But the point of this is just to get you thinking, there's this kind of one technology here that evolved, right? Controlling of electrons, right, as an experimental level. Of course, things happened before this, just experiment-wise. Here we have, what was Marconi's thing? Yeah, radio, right? So I can't remember, Newfoundland or wherever he set up, they basically went for the throat. They're like, well, we can speed up communication. They're like, well, where would be if you could pick anywhere on Earth, where would we maximize speeding up communication? Yeah, in their time it wasn't, some people are like, well, the west to the east of the US or this or that. They did research into that and they picked transatlantic, right? So they went North Atlantic to Ireland, I think it was Ireland, for that. then of course this. So during all this time, were any of these groups around? Yes. The IEEE, which I don't have a banner, huge influence all along the way, right? Leading, of course, to 802.11, right? So could you be involved with 802.11? Sure, it's still evolving, right? Now, more than likely, you'd have to be a real, engineer to operate at a certain level. But they also do plenty of other things, right? They need help organizing as well, and you don't have to be an electrical engineer to do that. I'm not an electrical engineer. I'm a member of IEEE. We helped them put on the I-50 event. So if you missed that, you can look it up. That was the 50th anniversary party for the internet. So believe it or not, the internet is 50.
So how old is that in internet years?
Yes. It was a great time. It actually, we'll see the other groups too. That actually came out of another group called People-Centered Internet, whose kind of focus is about just equitable access to the internet, community-based controls around the internet, which we'll talk more about in just a moment. We'll get into the groups here in a second. They invited us through the Internet Society to go help the IEEE work with the ACM to put on this party. And David and I did that, and we proved that we were very bad at audio-video skills. But we tried. We tried our hardest. All right. Along all this, of course, we had electrification and all the things that come with that. Right? Who's this guy? Oh, no. Faraday. Faraday. If just a geek wish here, if I could go back in time to any time in history, it would be when the day he got the rod and deduced there was deflection. I mean, all he did was this with a magnet. And that was it. But when he saw it move over there, the world changed, in my opinion. Like he probably knew, he probably didn't know what it would become, but in my opinion, knowing you can control it was, I can't imagine another thing more earth-shattering than when that happened. We got his buddy here, decades later. Yeah, we got Maxwell. He's the one who got it down to the equations to make it reusable, right? We can think about it. And then this is meant to be Pearl Street, right? So Pearl Street, the first part that lit up somewhere in New York. There's also a place in London that was like the first year too. Okay. Oh man, this is actually, who's this guy? Well, his name's up there. So this is another reminder. Again, we're trying to, as you look at these ranges of tech, the goal here is to start thinking of the good and the bad, because when we get into the groups, you're going to see like who relates to what. So this is Joseph Weizenbaum. He created ELIZA, which in 1964, a couple years in advance, before that, first kind of chat to maybe trick some people to thinking it was alive, right? And then, of course, we have ELIZA, the bot, today, the actual bot.
It's good picking of the domain, because a lot of the reflective psychology is asking.
Hey, yeah, right, yeah. All right, so again, those are just kind of the historical spectrum of things, and there's been lots of good and lots of bad, and now there's lots of groups. So how does society affect technology, and how does technology impact society? Generally speaking, spent way more time on this than I would have thought. Generally speaking, it comes to innovation. We want to innovate in kind of a mealy word, but the idea is to become more efficient, right? We need to build something to make something easier, rinse and repeat, right? That's the general thing. Sounds good, but the problem is, along the way, you get cartels that form, you get bad actors, you get split brain, just lack of focus. That can happen. And so how do we
Question,
fix this?
what's the most important negative cartel in computer technology today? In the United States?
ISPs.
Oh, shoot. ISPs? Why the ISPs?
Well, because they're a cartel. I mean, it's a very restrictive and and they have under the table agreements about who's providing service to where. And there's a lot of lobbying going on. They got rid of net neutrality successfully, although California kept it. So I don't know, not a fan.
Right. What do you think about natural monopolies?
I think that, well, it's a philosophical question. I think that that's the role of government is to prevent natural monopolies from forming.
Well, in this case, though, we only want one proverbial wire to our house, right?
Right.
So that, by definition, is natural monopoly, right?
Well, you could have, or you could have a government running a wire to your house. You could have an artificial monopoly created by a government institution that says this is a standard that everybody should have access to. So the government is going to ensure that there's an equal access, instead of leaving it to the hands of private corporations. That's a
Yeah.
possibility.
Yep, right on. Charles, thoughts?
I'll leave that to later.
Okay, I'll leave it for later.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. There are concerns. And also with electricity, right? Just as same example, there's a wire to your house. I could speak a little more about that just because I've been in the electrical business, been CTO of a couple of different electric companies. And it is a natural monopoly. For those who don't know what that means, it means we want one wire to our house, right? You don't want 10 wires coming to your house, right? They're going to be digging up the street all the time, right, to get that wire to your house.
But you can't have different providers. You have one providing service, but you can't have different generators, right?
That's right. So similar maybe to the ISP vein, like somebody manages the physical infrastructure, right? In the case of energy, you have it. That's the utility company, right? They get the benefit of a natural monopoly, right? Because we don't want a million people digging up the roads. But then there's the distribution, right? The three levels of electricity are utility, the last mile to your house, the distribution, which is high voltage to the generators, right? And then there's the generators. And in theory, you're not allowed to own all of those because then you are a monopoly, right? In theory. That's right. Yeah, so are there groups involved with this? Well, there's, of course, the engineering aspects. IEEE has lots of power-focused engineering efforts. There is routing, right? Again, very academic in nature. Are there other things we can do? Well, yeah, there's just regulations, right? Imagine if the internet costs the most because the power costs the most. Of your internet bill, you pay X for the bits, but what if the power, for whatever reason, was a different price, right? And don't think people don't think that. If there is somebody wanting to make money, there's someone trying to make a business market out of arrangement of these wires, right? Okay, so we all know what that is. So what about society? In our case, we're here to talk about technical societies, but there's just society. For me, this just means a group of people trying to accomplish some kind of unified mission. The main thing for anyone who's not part of any of these groups, they operate at different levels, right? We have, as chapters, we have meetings every month here, mostly online, some in person. Before COVID, it was mostly in person, right? I personally prefer in person over virtual any day of the week, but that's just me. So that, again, you can come to any of these groups. Some of them charge money, like the professional societies, but usually the chapters do not. Like they want you to pay, but most of them will happily let you attend quietly, or better yet, if you're going to attend for free, participate, right? Just volunteer. That would also be welcomed. Okay. All right, so this is just some thoughts on again, the organizations themselves. You know, in the old days we had guilds. We still have guilds to some degree today. There was a statement earlier about unionizing software engineers. Do you want to talk about that? Thoughts on why is that good or bad?
Wait me out. I mean, I don't know. It removes some of the power that the corporations have over their workers. Obviously, like if there are no unions or if there's no way for the workers to organize, the corporations can pretty much do whatever they want. And so by creating these groups, you can kind of defray some of that power.
That's right. Yep, that's the intent. So we can look to history. We can look at other groups who had those same challenges, and how did they pull off these solutions as well. Again, different groups have, just trying to show you there's a range of things here for those who don't or who are not involved, right? Professional societies, this is my generic term for this. This is what I'm including as like learned societies, like an ACM, a more like standards-based society like the IEEE, right? They're nuanced, right? They do their own things, but yet there's a lot of overlap as well. There's plenty of other groups that I have no experience in, like AMAS, ASME. There's all kinds of groups. There's kind of more civil advocacy groups. Like if you're more politically bent, you may have more enjoyment in these groups, right? Because they're, to kind of maybe paraphrase it, they're very opinionated. And I won't take a position that they're right or wrong, but they're opinionated on what they're trying to do, and they're going after it. They hire, like lawyers run these groups, right? Even though it's all about electronics, right? Doesn't mean you can't participate. In years past, we've had events for these guys as well, hosted them and helped them at different points. So again, maybe more technical, vocational maybe. Here, more policy bent. And again, there is overlap here. Some more standards-based ones, right? Standardization bodies, IEEE would fall under here as well. IETF, W3C, siblings, managed siblings of the Internet Society, right? So again, some of these groups are umbrella groups. They work together. And your attitude about what you're working on may change. You may join the Internet Society and work with us to do grant writing. Go help a group install some kind of repeater. Or you may come back and write blogs that help educate people on what's wrong about removing encryption, right? There's a range of groups in these larger groups with different focuses. Greg?
Comment on standardization bodies. So like in IEEE, there's what defines an engineer, there's a standardization exam, or for a doctor or lawyer. For an AI engineer, if you wrote a prompt, are you an AI engineer? So some of the AI conferences I've gone to have had workshops on defining data science as a profession, and kind of working between bridging industry and academic and the definition of what's in different data science degree programs, because they've had newer programs.
That's a good point. Yeah, we can't have everybody saying they do
Not solved,
everything.
but it's in the
Yeah,
discussion.
that's right. Yeah, that's a great observation. So to Greg's point here, different groups, they have they try to have a quality of what makes a data scientist or a particular type of engineer role. And we do. We have tests, we have licensing for reasons, right? Some of it's bad, but usually licensing certification is generally in good nature.
I believe
Yes.
in
Oh.
licensing. However, in the software industry, we have two things that have hurt us, other than open source. The inability to really do good patent protections in software, and the inability to get buy-in by people other than governments in licensing people that do software work.
So challenges with patenting.
Yeah, so the IEEE has been working for 20 years to try to license software engineers, and it hasn't worked.
And why? Any thoughts on why?
Because it's cheaper to hire somebody without a license. If we required everyone to hire licensed software engineers, it would happen tomorrow.
Right.
Well, part of it is, what does it take to get a license? I'm a licensed professional mechanical engineer. There's a test for that, plus a certain amount of experience, plus references. It might be something similar, but you'd have to make the test at least.
We have the test. The problem is that, so if you're in medicine, the insurance company will only pay a licensed doctor.
Yeah.
So if we had a way to force people to only hire licensed software engineers, it would happen overnight.
So we have to come up with insurance for your software.
Yeah.
Insurance requires licensed
We
software.
have
engineers.
that now.
Do you think it's a categorization issue? Because like if I stub my toe, I can ask
So
someone to help me, right? Versus like I'm not going to do open heart surgery. I have to have a licensed doctor,
So
right?
we had a tomotherapy so these things don't happen as often as bridges falling down, otherwise we'd probably care more.
Right. Yep. It's good observation. All right. Wall of text, I won't, this is really just a continuation of this, just showing, again, there's all kinds of groups with different particular focuses, right? And a lot of them work together. Very rarely do we do anything alone as a group. At the very least, I'm trading notes with people in other groups for what might be a good topic. In fact, we are in my opinion, one of the centers of the universe for this kind of stuff, right? Silicon Valley. To be in Silicon Valley and not be engaged with these groups, to me, is a mistake. It's kind of like you're not taking advantage of water, right? Like, it's here, right? If you're in Nebraska and you got corn, not much, not knocking Nebraska, but had to pick somewhere in the flyover states. We got a lot of things here. Now, of course, not everything is just here, right? But a lot of it is here, or at least have substantial representation here. In fact, just in this room, we have, I pretty much know half the people here, right? And that's, I think that's great. We would like more people to be involved. There's other efforts. I'll focus a little more on this one. These are a little more focused that you can actually get involved with as well. One I love over by my house, the Internet Archive. Anyone been there before? Okay. Were you there for like a presentation or a tour?
There's an event happening there.
Okay. Yeah, so if you've never been, it's in the inner Richmond, like 19th and Clement in San Francisco. It's an old converted Scientology church. It's kind of surreal. You go into the main atrium and it's like all the pews are still there. They have huge servers up and they're working, doing their thing, and then you have the stage and there's offices and other things. It's a little surreal. So Brewster Kahle, the gentleman who funded it, the purchase of the building, and he's now the head librarian of the Internet Archive. Their main kind of artifact that you could jump in, just to give you an example, is they give free library software, right? And it's meant to be like digital collections, things like that, to help manage that. So they're always looking for people to help, and there's paid positions too. It's not just volunteer. Of course, it's open source as well, but they also have paid positions to do that. But they do events. Just to give you another dimension here, on their board, Rick Perlanger from the Perlanger Archives, which is in Soma, which is, I don't know who's not from San Francisco here, but up in the city, is a kind of a project labor of love. Him and his wife created the Perlanger Archives, and it's probably got a better description, but it's all the historical like TV fixing manuals, right? Like of electronics and stuff for the last 100 years. It's really trippy to walk in there and they're like, yeah, here's how to become an electrician on a radio, like before TV was even invented, right? Like they have all these old things. It's really cool. But related to that, they also restore and archive old videos. So like one of their big things is called Lost Landscapes. And what it is they're capturing just old personal home video of people in the Bay Area. And it's really trippy to watch. Every 6 months they'll rent out a movie theater or the Internet Archive and they'll have a screening of it. And they're doing two things, which I think is supremely fun. One is just the project itself. You get to see San Francisco before anything was even built, right? It's just real trippy to see, like, there's dirt. Where's Menlo Park? Like, it's gone. But then the other thing is they don't always know what they're looking at, right? Because it's lost to the sands of time, right? So they'll ask, most of it doesn't have any audio. So they'll ask people, as they're showing it, they ask people in the crowd to yell out what they think it is, right? And they learn new things every time. Like someone's like, oh yeah, that's my grandmother's house, over in some part of whatever, town. So they do really cool, interesting things there. But they've also had challenges. right? It's not all good. Their challenges are fighting publishers. So they they actually bought the books, the digital books, have a digital copy of something, leased it out to people, and would get it back, and then give it to the next person, and get it back, like a library. And they got sued for that. And they lost, right? Why? Why can't you give out something you own? Right? So I don't have all the story there, but that's the kind of thing, they've been fighting that for years. And now they just lost, and of course they'll fight it again. Yeah.
The story roughly was that around COVID, they wanted to open up like library material to more than one people, but they were only allowed to give out like one at a time, but they accidentally gave it to too many people, and that caused them trouble.
Well, yeah, I think that's right. The one they just lost is one person. Like that was probably what started it, and then they probably toned it down to one, and then they still got sued, right? So, yeah, so you can help them with that. Now, could you help them in a non-technical way? Yeah, they're always looking for lawyers to help, right? So again, I'm just highlighting the main things. There's other just work, running their events. They need people to help that, right? It's a great facility, as an example. Wikipedia, same kind of thing, right? They have their own nuance. Like there's hardcore Wikipedia editors that are very opinionated on how they do things, right? And then of course you got Jimmy Wales, the guy who created it, and his view of things. Again, contribute. Anyone here ever make a Wikipedia article? 2, 3. Yeah. I must ashamedly admit I did once, and it was removed. I grew up in Kentucky, and I put on my random counties notable citizens. I put me and my brother graduated high school, and they removed it the next day. I thought it was important, but apparently not. And there's other ones, of course.
I was doing a ACM data science camp from about 2009 to 15 or 16, so I tried to create a Wikipedia article for it, and it got taken down. I don't know why, but I was referring to other sources, like there's cloud camps and other kind of events going on. And,
Yeah.
but, okay,
Come on in.
slapped.
Yeah. Like why? Yeah, it's not always. All right. So for us, what can we do here, right? So we want to entice. We've only got a little bit. Really, just want to show you that these big groups have local operations, but big goals, right? Internet Society. So maybe I'll talk about the local, but if I can convince Charles to talk about the large. So we have Charles Mock here, who has joined us. He is on the board of trustees of the Global Internet Society. And to be clear, I am the chair of the San Francisco Bay Internet Society. So we can give our points of view. Do you want to maybe talk about?
After you.
Okay. Yeah. So I want to just highlight what we do, real quick, and some of the actual challenges we're having. Right? Maybe this will get you interested. So we got some slides we'll show you in a minute about these things. Our chapter, we primarily do 2 things. We currently put on events or try to do grant-related support of other efforts to help gain internet access or some kind of education around usage of the internet. So to do either of those things, let's just start with the meeting one because it's just very basic and logistic. To do a meeting, you got to get the speakers, or in our case, be the speakers. We, depending on what we're trying to do, get sponsors just for food, get the space itself. Not so much for this one, but in a prior larger event, which I'll show you some pictures and video later, we just did AI Day in San Francisco. That took us as much effort to just set up the logistics as it was to actually build the material that we presented, right? So there's room for anyone. If you just want to help with the sponsors of these groups, you don't have to know anything about TCP/IP, right? Now, of course, we want you to be part of the mission, right? Locally, we want you to care about the internet. So it's more than just meetings, the grant work. So the Internet Society, just as a organization, has several grants that they give out to other groups to support the mission, which is equitable access to the internet. For our part, as a chapter, we can act as administrators. So we become your partner. We're kind of the guide for the the global operation grants to flow through to whatever local operation. So here in the Bay, we've worked with different efforts here in Half Moon Bay, down in San Bernardino. We're now looking to our next round of kind of grant work. We're noodling over some ideas. One of them is around disaster preparedness. So, for example, you are in a wildfire, which seems to happen a lot around here, and the internet's not so good. So why is that? So, just to give you an idea, how might you put two and two together? Well, we don't get the grants. We just help shepherd the grants to somebody who might. So we try to find groups who are interested in those efforts. For example, I've found one that's actually in Tennessee, University of Tennessee, Knoxville. Turned out they're doing exactly what I was wanting to work on, which was how do you make the internet more resilient in a wildfire? And it turns out they've already been working on it for like 2 years as students, and they've got techniques that work in these kind of adverse conditions, but they need help on like how do you actually get that out in the world? Like it's one thing to just do it as a academic study. It's another thing to I don't know, just show people how to do it, to making policy to force people to do it, right? That kind of range of stuff. And that's where maybe a grant could help, right? We'd have to look over and talk to our senior partners, like that's the kind of work that could happen there. But there's other things too. We try to write blogs about things. Just maintaining our website takes an active someone willing to do that, right? We have all these things that all could use a consistent hand. And that's, if I can say anything you might be interested in, other groups probably have the same problem, right? I'll just speak for the ACM and the Internet Society chapters. We both need help on our websites, right? So if you know WordPress, it's annoying to just do a little bit for one. We'll do it for all of us, right? Fix all of our websites, right? We need that kind of help so we can get back to work, right? The more I spend time trying to fix WordPress, the less time I have to go try to work on a grant, right? I have a day job too, and it's no fun to be tied up with these little things a lot of the time. So we have a range of stuff. If you want to be a grant writer, we'd love to have you, right? Charles, you want to?
Do you want me to just talk about this, or I can respond all together later on?
Maybe just give just like a couple high-level points on like what's the maybe big things the global group is targeting, just as a high level.
Yeah, because
Just so people have an idea.
Yeah, because I have so many things that I also wanted to say about what you were talking about with the technical society and so on. So maybe I'll quickly go through a few points because I've been jotting down a few points here. Because your topic today overall is about technical society, right? But I think typically when people think about internet society, they may not necessarily think about it in the same kind of way that people think of a technical society such as ACM or IEEE. The reason being that for those organizations like ACM and IEEE, I think people mostly think about them as a professional organization first, right? But for ISOC, it might be useful to go back to some of the history of how ISOC was formed in the beginning to understand where it is and what it does. Because ISOC was formed in, well, we call ISOC Internet Society, it's short for ISOC is short for Internet Society. So we were formed in 1992. And if you think back about what's happening at that time, 1992, first of all, the internet is undergoing a transformation from being a more academic and research network after ARPANET, and going through the process of transforming it to be a commercial phase, right? So what happened at that time is if you do that, you have to think about a lot of these issues, how to govern the internet, starting with how do you give out domain names? Who is responsible for keeping up with the addresses, the IP addresses, the numbers of the internet, the ASN and so on? Because you need to do that, right? Because you don't want two IBM.com. You don't want two servers with the same IP address, right? You have to have one registry. But who is going to be the authority of that registry? You have to set up the rules of the game. And before that, to be honest, it was just a group of researchers, you know, the early founders of the internet and so on, and they keep it in their little logbook or their own servers in their office and so on some of the universities around, mostly in California and so on. So that's all. So you have to change that. So what happened at that time was the founder of Internet Society, including the fathers of the Internet, so-called, Winsor and Bob Kahn and so on, they and among other people also co-founded the Internet Society, and they also work on this whole scheme of governance and work with the government, primarily at the time the US government, because they funded the ARPANET, they sort of owned the internet at the time, but how do they transfer the jurisdiction from that to a new organization or a group of other new organizations to continue to run the internet sort of in a way that is both international and one word that we haven't used today, multi-stakeholder. Multi-stakeholder, bottom up rather than top down. So around that time in the 90s, between the formation of the Internet Society in 1992 to the formation of ICANN in 1998, a whole group of organizations and names started to appear, including responsible for the IANA, responsible for the numbering of the internet, including the IETF, which is actually a very important, not really a professional society, but they're more like more like ICANN in a way, that it is an organization, but it's not itself membership-based, but it's multi-stakeholders, anyone can participate, and they are the custodian of the internet standards, all the RFCs and so on. So this whole ecosystem of the Internet Society, IETF, ICANN, IANA, and Internet Architecture Board, and so on, all were formed in the 1990s. And in 1998, the US government, the Department of Commerce, signed an agreement with ICANN to transfer the administration of the numbers and names from the US government to the international community, to ICANN as an organization that's registered in California. So from the international point of view, some governments still think that this is like controlled by the U.S. government, but it's actually just a U.S. corporation. You have to be registered somewhere, right? So that's the whole background of ICANN, of ISOC. But ISOC, right now, what do we do? In the early days, the vision of the founders was that it would be a membership-based organization, so every user on the internet should be a member. So it's very different from a professional organization. You have qualification in order to join IEEE or ACM and so on, right? So we don't have that for ISOC. So our vision is more like, I think it is on my back, right? Internet is for everyone.
It got encrypted, it's gone. There's nothing on your back.
Okay. Yeah, because okay, that's another shirt. Okay, but yeah, so the motto of the Internet Society is Internet for everyone. So you don't have to be a professional, you don't have to be educated, you don't have to be technical. It can be just any user, right? So, but soon enough, we found out that is very difficult to administer, because if we want to, right, that's an ISOC.
That's right. Here's the ISOC.
Yeah, but there's actually a company called that name too. But anyway, so what we do is soon enough we found out that individual members, we still have individual members. You can go online to isoc.org or internetsociety.org and register to become an individual member.
Yep, I was that
Yeah, and
a long
then
time then.
they would ask you probably to see if you want to join a chapter, if in your region there is a chapter. Right now there are 120 or so chapters all around the world, including the one in San Francisco Bay Area and all over the world. So that becomes easier for the organization to manage the individual members, because otherwise, if it is just millions of people around the world and you just have an individual email and so on, when it comes time to representation or even let's say, election for the trustee and so on, it doesn't work. So that's one reason. And the other thing about this ecology, I want to point out about ISOC's role in standard setting is that part of the main, actually the main reason the founder of the society wanted to set up this society is to make sure that there will be a custodian for continuation of the work of the IETF. Because the Internet Engineering Task Force is very important in the sense that these RFCs are what governs the continuation of the standard that all of us, that we're using the internet, so that you don't have a Microsoft standard and then later on you have a Google standard and then later on you also have a Huawei standard and everybody's do their own thing. So you need the IEEE continuation as an entity and as a custodian and the process of developing these standards. But in order to do that, you need money, right? So how do they come up with that money? You don't want that to be funded by one or more than one particular government, because if that's the way it goes, then they will be controlled by the government. So how do they do it? And then they sort of took advantage of the commercialization of the internet. Some companies like VeriSign, they are going to be, designated with the .com and so on, so they're going to make a lot of money, and they may be contributing some of that money to ICANN and so on. So how do we make sure that some of the money actually would go to fund the continuation development of the internet as well as the standards? So we created, at that time, there was an agreement to create an entity called the Public Internet Registry, PIR, which is responsible, the registry for .org. So think about that today. I think there are probably around 11 million .org domains all around the world. That money goes to this non-profit entity called the PIR, which would fund the Internet Society. Otherwise, we don't have the funding for the chapters and all these other projects. So right now, Internet Society is transforming from not only as, it is a technical society, it is also, it's not a professional society, but it is also a entity that is related to standard setting, because it supports IETF, but it is also a philanthropic organization in the sense that we actually support a lot of projects all around the world to connect the unconnected. Imagine, connecting a little village in Nepal or Africa, or even in some of the Native American settlements or whatever in Canada. The Canadian chapters are very active doing that, and so on. So we have many of these different kinds of projects that has to do with research as well as connecting accessibility and so on. So that's Internet Society, to give you the background. Oh, okay, then how can you involve? You can involve as an individual member without joining any chapter, but of course, since you are in San Francisco, in the Bay Area, the easiest thing is to work with the local chapter. And then the local chapter, I think Ron talked about many of the very great events that they organize every year or all the time. And I have to say that you're probably one of the more active chapters in North America right now. But other than that, the chapters oftentimes are actually also at-large structures of ICANN. You are too, right? I think you are.
Yep.
Yeah. So it just so happens that in the ICANN infrastructure, ICANN is the global organization to administer the domain names and numbers. So there is a particular section of ICANN that is called the at-large community. The at-large community membership is based on, again, either joining as individual member or more likely joining as an at-large structure. And many of the ISOC chapters around the world are actually also ICANN at-large structures. So they can also participate in global internet governance topics including the operation of ICANN, which is still critical as a, kind of an internet central administration point, but at the same time, also participating in issues that has to do with, for example, some of the top issues that they're working on right now, DNS abuse. Because DNS is, domain names, great, everything, not so great in some other ways, but in particular, in recent years, a lot of it abuse or cyber scam that happens. You might say, well, what does cyber scam has to do with domain names or IP addresses?
Well, botnets, domain name generation too.
Yeah, that too.
Command and control.
But even more directly, even if you get your scam from WhatsApp or whatever, there's always a link, right? That link would go to a domain name and an IP address, and then with a fake, page, whatever, to scam your information, and they tell you to make it look very much like a bank thing, and then you input your information and so on. These domains, I was told, are typically less than, the lifespan is often less than 1 or 2 weeks. So which means that we are, and this is some of the policy issue as an example that you will face. Do you want to give the law enforcement all the power to go to all the registries and registrars and the domain names, ISPs and so on, and tell them to remove domain names on order from the government? Or in many countries, maybe even in this country as well, you would be worried about that impact on freedom of expression and abuse of that particular power. So these domains or website or whatever might run the risk of being removed at will by government because they say that it contradict local laws and so on. That is, it used to be a lot bigger problem in many of the more authoritarian countries in the world than Western democracies, but these days it doesn't make that much difference anymore. So that's a huge concern, and an example of some of these issues that are crossover between technical issue because of the way any technical standard or administration, you still have to set up rules. And when you set up rules, then you have to deal with values. So some of the slides that you talked about before, like some of these civil society organizations, yeah, ISOC is sometimes also viewed as a civil society organizations. Why? We're not exactly like EFF, because we do have a more technical background, but sometimes we share some of the similar types of values. I would use more like the word value rather than opinion, because it has to do with things such as freedom of expression, or in ISOC's case, free and open internet, and safe and secure internet. Sometimes these values may contradict each one another depending on how you look at them. So how do you balance? Where do you balance? So it has to do with also the these types of values that has to do with governance. Because right now, I think when we talk about the multi-stakeholder model, the multi-stakeholder model of the governance of the internet has been around, as I said, since the early early 1990s. But there's a growing trend right now to take over that by governments. And IETF as an example, IEEE as an example, as the custodian of many of these technical standards that has to do with the running of the internet, working of the internet and so on, there's a growing push by some governments for the United Nations International Telecom Union to take over. So that is part of the United Nations, which means that we are not members. We might be invited to some of the meetings and sit by the side, but civil society or technical societies are not members, only the government. But the internet became what it is now, not through that kind of model. It was always bottom up, it was always free for anyone to participate through different stakeholders. But there's a growing push, as I said, from governments to take it over, and particularly from the countries that like China, Russia, Cuba, and so on. These types of countries. So there's a growing push. and we have to be very careful about that. So maybe I've said a lot, but
Great.
just some of the response to the more lively type of introduction from Ron. But I just want to tell you from our perspective, this is the more maybe technical as well as the actual history of ISOC and where it is today and why it is still going to be very important in the future. Because you can participate at different levels. If I'm only interested in technical talks, that's one way of participating. Or maybe through ISOC, you would also be able to or interested in getting more involved in the work of the IETF, or as very strictly technical angles of your interest. But on the other hand, if you are interested in policy work, there are also 100 of different ways that you can participate through ISOC. See this gentleman back there?
Yeah. So the key exchange ceremony that's done on a regular basis, moving that to different locations in order to generate a paying audience.
Moving what to a different location? Sorry.
So there's the handwritten key exchange that's used to secure the internet backbone. Usually it takes place near San Diego. If it were up here where I could get to it easily, I'd pay $50 to go watch it. You can move that around to generate audience.
Which event?
We can exchange our keys for
Keys?
yeah, encryption.
How do you not know about this?
What key?
Maybe talk about some of the details offline after.
Yeah, so I think I get the point of like there's events we could.
Way to make money.
Yeah, wait.
Which event is it?
Which one? There's actually more than one. Which one is? Who's the one running this one?
Any of them.
Yeah, there's,
Which
The
one in
ones-
San Diego?
so-
like PGP, like they would have
PGP?
like
Okay.
as an example, right? They would have key exchanges and
So we do physical key exchanges that are never actually on a digital computer, so that we are sure that nobody can steal the keys.
Okay. Which organization is that? Not ISOC.
You're gonna make me look it up? I think I can.
No, I don't think it's ICANN. So.
well, I've heard this. There are some groups that do this,
Yeah.
and more to the point, there's these events. A event. This is one.
Aren't you diverting from your purpose here?
It's the internet wedding. It's a way to make money.
Down the
Yes.
rabbit hole.
Sorry.
Charles, thank you.
Okay.
So clearly better than I can expose. Again, there's global things you can be part of, local things you can be part of, right? So this is just one group. ACM, just to show we have different levels. Would any gentleman like to come up and speak a little? Or come as a group. We could do a cappella. Come on. So we have our San Francisco State University chapter of the ACM. And team. He doesn't even roll alone. He's got the team here. So come.
The moral support here.
All right. So what's been going on at a chapter level, student chapter level? What have you guys been doing? What are the challenges? What do you see going forward?
Yeah, like Ron said, we are a student chapter at San Francisco State University of ACM. On a chapter level, we're a little bit different in that, yes, we focus on professional development by making sure students have that experience, as well as being in Silicon Valley, making sure there's a lot of company events. Keith is actually in charge of doing all that. But on top of that, something that we try to focus on, especially when it comes to students and when it comes to San Francisco State, where it's a commuter's campus and there's not as much of a cohesive community, is we try to provide that through our chapter. We try to do that through social events. We do that through just our own, we have a little Discord server, or a online little chat place that we all meet up or talk about what we're doing or what we find cool, that's going on in tech or stuff like that. On top of that, for students who are interested in different fields within CS, like cybersecurity or game development. We have SIGs for that as well, or affiliated organizations. So that's kind of how we structure ourselves. We really have a really big emphasis on just community building and providing that within the scope of like, how do you navigate the world of computer science and tech as a student? Yeah, that's what we do. I think as a chapter, we have a lot of different like initiatives and goals that we're trying to achieve right now. One of them we just did this morning. When you brought up like websites and stuff like that, we just deployed ours
Like 2 hours ago.
But it's small stuff like that, right? Like we're interested in like building up our own like open source community and seeing if we can get students involved in that. And so a website's like one little part of that, and saying like, okay, we hit that milestone, and moving forward, what else can we do, right? Like building a own little kind of chat bot for ourselves, or like a Discord bot that moderates our events and things like that. Since we do a lot of student events, how can we do that? Or what other tools can we build internally that help our team? The biggest thing is we also host a hackathon. Little shirt thing.
The SFX shirt. Last year's shirt.
Yeah, last year's shirt.
I couldn't find the shoe shirt, but, so, yes, question.
Are you student mover for ACM or IEEE?
ACM.
Thank you.
So that was last weekend, right? Sorry, it was a really
Yeah,
long
that was
weekend,
last
but last weekend we hosted SF Hacks and we got about 300 hackers.
Is
And
the
this-
microphone on?
Should be.
Do we need it?
You're very,
Can you hear me?
you're very quiet.
Oh. Yeah, it's on.
Hold it
Closer.
Yeah, hold it closer.
Yes.
Yes, very much.
Much better.
So this past weekend we hosted SF Hacks and we got about 300 hackers from all over the country. On this event itself, there's a lot of work that goes in from the student side. So pretty much, we were about a week out, and then next week we're gonna start planning for next year. And so one of the main things we do need for support for these events are like sponsors, speakers, panelists. In general, because this event is pretty pricey to like feed people for 48 hours. And so the main stuff we're trying to do is, oh, I thought I heard a question, sorry.
No.
The main thing is like the free food itself. We really like create an experience for students, so that way like students who've never had experience or like pushing themselves to the limit to see what they can create, have that opportunity. So I think this is the 7th year SF Hacks has been around. 2017.
There's like 2 different timelines.
Okay.
There's this pre-pandemic and then at post.
So the 2nd year post-COVID. So the 2nd year since we've returned in person. And this event for me personally is very impactful because it does really give a lot of students a sort of flexibility and that sort of time crunch to sort of create something based on like what they think they want to do. We have a bunch of themes and tracks that they build off of, but the central idea is giving yourself the opportunity to create something in a short period of time and see what you can do. But to tie off a bit with the SIGs themselves, so ACM, so Mark was one who, I'm not gonna put his mic off to you yet, but Mark was the one who restarted it, and in the process, it has grown crazy. So I think when we first started, how many members did we have?
We started with like 4, and then it grew to like the first. I think our first kickoff was like 100 people.
Do you have any women in your group?
And I'm sorry.
Do you have any women? in
Yes,
your
we do.
group?
As a matter of fact, a lot of our leadership is female, and
didn't they
that's
come?
something we pride ourselves in.
Why didn't they come?
I don't know. I think
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
This is actually a really big issue. As president at the start of the semester, something that we noticed, especially when it came to our executive board, I think when it comes to like people of color, we've kind of done a pretty good job. I'm up here, so I mean, like we really pushed that goal. But in terms of women in our group, that was something that we noticed. And so over the past 6 months, 8 months, however long a full academic year is, one of the things that we've really done is like expanding our outreach efforts. That involves like getting involved with Society of Women's Engineering, which is another, I guess,
Yes.
group.
Yes.
Yes, or society on our campus. It involves just hearing out what are like some of the concerns, especially around like safety and computer science, in our computer science space. So something that we're actually really proud to announce is that we're having elections coming up, and for the first time in our ACM history, about 50% of the candidates are actually women. So it's something
okay.
that we're working on, but
Good job.
I mean, one of the challenges that we're also working on is, that we're dealing with is that just the enrollment, right? The number of females that are enrolled in the computer science department is just minuscule, right? And so by kind of pressing for like more leadership, more leadership participation amongst the females, I think that will actually help increase the number of people, because if they see other women, right, in leadership, they're gonna see it as something kind of more safer for them to go into. Whereas if you go up and you see every single leader is a guy, right? They're like, this isn't representative of me, right? And so that's something that we've been pushing that we deal with, right? And obviously, some of that is kind of out of our control. But we do work with the computer science department as well to try and kind of see what we can do to kind of increase that enrollment.
But it's really still low, very low right now?
It's quite low.
5%, 10%?
Probably less than 10%. Yeah.
CS department?
Yeah, I think so. CS department as a whole.
Yeah.
An interesting thing is that the number of grad students, female grad students, is actually much higher than the number of undergrads. So
Is that because there's more international component in grad school?
maybe? I don't know.
Women in general pursue higher education at much higher rates than men. Right now
That
we're
could be.
seeing
That
Yeah,
could
but
be
you kind
true.
of got to have an undergrad degree before you take the graduate degree, don't you?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
like more men stop at a bachelor's, more women pursue higher education. The overall trend.
Okay.
It's just like right now in universities for whatever reason. Should we
That's
give Jack
awesome.
our mic before we?
Oh, this is great.
This is our talk now.
So, well, no. I mean, but this is kind of the point, right? There's groups here at the university level. We've got the professional chapters, and we also have, for the ACM, we also have the global operation as well, national and global. So thank you, gentlemen. I was at SF Hacks last weekend as a judge, and I have to say, there was a wealth of people and projects. I loved to see it. If anything, it made me feel tired. I don't know if I'm just getting older, but I could say just talking. I love the energy that I'm just trying to I'm trying to reciprocate, and man, that was way more. I should have worked out 6 weeks ahead of time before try it. But thanks for the invite. Liana, yes.
The Silicon Valley Engineer Council has a scholarship program for high schools, undergraduate, and graduate students for the first 2 years, master degrees. So we have not seen any applicants from San Francisco State.
What program is this?
Silicon Valley Engineering Council, SVEC.
Wow.
Who we will bring up in just a few minutes. But something to pay attention when it comes up. All right. Thank you.
You guys don't need any money, right?
Oh, no. Always down for money.
All right,
Well-
then you should talk to us.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for. Greg, would you like to talk for a couple minutes on our chapter? So I'm not doing all the talking. So we have multiple members of Liana, Greg, Karthik, David, all from the ACM chapter here in the Bay. Greg is one of our critical members and is going to talk a little bit about this chapter.
Okay. Hi, my name is Greg Mikowski. I started coming to some of the ACM talks when they started doing data science talks back in 2006. And then somebody approached me and said, "Hey, Greg, would you like to help us out?" So about 2008, I started inviting data mining and AI speakers, and we've been doing that for a while. I'm giving a talk later this month, the fourth Monday, on defending AGI against scheming. So if you've heard of large language models, I haven't been too afraid of Skynet until I read this paper in January. And so what I'm talking about isn't just reviewing the paper, but how to defend against it. But in general about ACM broadly, we have not just talks, but we also do like a professional development seminar, PDS. So that'd be like a day-long training class on a Saturday or something like that. And also we've been doing judging science fair competitions. So we just did that recently in March. Where we gave prizes for first, second, third place in grades 6 through 12. But it was really impressive looking at like the top 5 contest winners. It's like these could have been in conference publications. It's like, how do we pick among which is the first place? So it's some really good work to see. So that's very exciting. So just different levels of activity that we're involved in, or different kinds of events. And in the past, we've done other kinds of things, of other structures. So.
Thank you, Greg. Yeah. Greg is a very prolific helper in the group. If you ever need to know how to run a group, talk to Greg. He knows what he's doing. All right, IEEE. Kim, would you mind talking for a few minutes about the IEEE? I am a member of the IEEE, but I will say it's one of these groups that I'm there for the party more than the work.
The party man, okay. Yeah, so I'm Kim Parnell. I'm a member of IEEE and actually a number of the various societies in IEEE. One thing about IEEE is it is very large. Here in Silicon Valley, there's about 10,000 members in Silicon Valley. This is the largest section now in the US. It used to be the largest in the world, but now it's the largest in the US. There's about 470,000 members internationally then. But here in Silicon Valley, there's 30 chapters. There's the Computer Society, the Consumer Technology, Engineering, Medicine, and Biology. I'm active with the Consultants Network. I'm a consultant and expert witness. There's a lot of things and a lot of different things for different people to get involved with. So it's very good in that regard. There's a lot of networking opportunities. There's a publication that's put out by email you can subscribe to, or you can go to it on the web, called the eGrid, E-G-R-I-D, and that has all of the events for the various chapters.
It's not that one, but
oh yeah, I was going to say Spectrum's a magazine, but yeah, different societies have their own publications. Some of them do. But the eGrid is a listing of all of the chapter activities. You know where they are with when, gets you to a registration page. Like my Consultants Network group, CNSV, we kind of pivoted to virtual meetings during COVID, but now we're hybrid meetings. So everyone you can register for it either to attend in person or to attend on Zoom as a hybrid meeting. A lot of the chapters are doing that now. We tend to record meetings, and have PDFs available. So even if you didn't make it, you can go back and go to our website and pull up prior meetings. Our last several events have had an AI focus, and I think even the next one in May has an AI focus also. Our meetings are second Tuesday of the month. But yeah, you can reach out to me if you want more information on IEEE or any of the societies. I've been chair of the section before and chair of some of the local chapters. So there's a lot going on. It's a very dynamic, active type group, whereas I'm a member of a couple of groups that are barely on life support. So IEEE is not on life support.
would you care to stay for one more?
Oh, sure.
I think it's for SVC. Let me.
One question.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, since you brought this up before, are there many women in the IEE groups?
Yeah, there are. And there is a women in engineering section there too, WIE, we. And they're having a leadership conference in San Jose that's upcoming. I believe that's in May, about mid-May. You'll find that like in the eGrid also.
This is for you guys.
And let's see, it was also mentioned, I think you guys mentioned, there's the Society of Women Engineers, SWE. That's a totally separate society, but Women in Engineering, WIE, is an IEEE society then. I couldn't tell you exactly what the numbers are, but there's definitely a lot of women that are active though. And,
You see that increasing?
oh, yeah, definitely increasing, for sure. There's a lot of, a lot of emphasis on that, even though we probably can't say it anymore, right? We can't say that there's an effort to bring in other people or anything, but there is still
You can
that
say it
effort,
here.
though.
It's a safe space.
This is a safe space? Okay. You won't turn me in? Yeah, so, that's the deal. And, okay, so, and Leanna could talk about this too. Silicon Valley Engineering Council is another group that I'm active in. I'm vice president right now. And Silicon Valley Engineering Council, the idea is that all of the engineering societies and technical societies, not just engineering, but IEEE, ASME, civil engineers, women in engineering, SWE, SWE, all of them have a role here. And you can, I think of it as a place where a lot of multidisciplinary kind of interaction takes place. ACM is a member here of SVEC. SVEC, I don't know, is there a website? Down there, the
It's up top
very
too.
low.
Yeah.
Oh, at the top too? Oh, yeah. svec-ca.org. You'll see a little bit about it. You guys that wanted scholarships, you'll find the information there. Scholarships were awarded at our Hall of Fame banquet in February. And so there'll be application process again, like Leanna was saying, different levels there. Judging, there's a competition for these, but there were a number that were awarded last year based on donations being made to support the scholarship fund. The other big thing I would say about SVEC is the one up here, the Hall of Fame. If you look at the Hall of Fame, there have been 96 inductees over 35 years. This goes back to Fred Terman, father of Silicon Valley, Hewlett and Packard, the Varian brothers, Moore, Gordon Moore. There's a lot of really famous and people who had a real influence around this part of the area. I mean, it's really intended to be kind of Silicon Valley focused, but there's a lot of people there. And last inductee was a good friend of mine, Larry Nagel. He invented SPICE when he was at Berkeley. That was his project at Berkeley where he did his PhD. Everybody here know SPICE? Any of you computer folks know SPICE? Certainly EE folks know SPICE. I even know SPICE. When I was at Bell Labs, that was still the hottest thing around, was that, wow, you could use SPICE and do all this simulation you could never do before. And the year prior to that was Ranjan Nag, another friend who is very active in artificial intelligence and in longevity aspects. So kind of that melding of bio-related activity with artificial intelligence. And Ranjan teaches a class 3 or 4 times a year at Stanford in the continuing education department called a Crash Course in AI. So if it's something like, hey, what's all this AI stuff? That's a great one to take. It costs about $400, 6 Monday nights typically, and it really is a crash course, but you learn a lot during that time frame. So that's the kind of people that are in the Hall of Fame. Year prior to that, Bill Dally of NVIDIA, vice president, principal architect there at NVIDIA, taught at Stanford. Berkeley Dean of Engineering is Sujay King Liu is in the Hall of Fame. She was maybe 5 years ago, I think, something like that. Hall of Fame is definitely one that needs more women. And you have to nominate people to get in the Hall of Fame. They don't just come in and get on the bulletin board. They have to be nominated. Letters of reference, there's a judging, Hall of Fame judging panel, that kind of thing. Sujay King Liu is the last woman inducted. There are 5 out of the 96 that are women. Come on, there's got to be more than that around here, right? So think about that. Any of your societies, you can help to promote through the Hall of Fame. It's a really good thing, and I think it's a really good recognition. It really does provide a lot of impetus for people. Is that good?
Yeah, that's perfect.
All right.
Thank you, Kim. Round of applause for Kim, everybody. Since we're almost at time, I'm just going to quickly focus on one, even though there's always more. So Silicon Valley Young Scholars is a group of ranging from high school age through college, undergrad, learning, empowering diverse young minds through equitable access to computer science, life science, and real-world innovation. What they do is put on events, including competitional / training events around very kind of just what I think is interesting uses. Like, for example, recently one of the members, actually their chair, Claire did on Parkinson's recognition through AI. She's 15, 16? Still younger than me. She's done something more important than I've ever done, right? Yeah. Oh, great. Yeah, so again, this is just showing there's kids helping kids learn these really advanced technologies. Where could we fit in? Well, there's still young among us who could actually even be part of this, but then there's ones who are not young enough to be part of it. You can join, participate as a mentor. So for us, the ACM, the local chapter ACM, this is actually now a SIG of our chapter. So our goal is to just help do things that they can't do, like sign legal contracts because they're too young, right? So they'll go cure cancer, we'll go sign the contract, right? So that's the arrangement that we have. So they're putting on an event on June 7th. We are still, this is in Cupertino in City Hall. They've got that arranged to have this AI workshop. We are still looking for mentors to help them. We're looking for just volunteers to help with general logistics. So if any of that potentially interests you, you can find me or Liana or Greg, and we can help you potentially get involved with this.
Held in Cupertino City Hall?
This event.
It says Delta by Marriott.
Sorry, I guess that needs to get updated. Sorry, thanks. Didn't even notice that.
That event is now at Cupertino City Hall?
Yes.
Saturday, June 7th?
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks.
This year it's a temporary arrangement. Next year it's going to be certain to work with the Cupertino City.
Okay, but keep an eye on the webpage. We'll double check. So yeah, this is just another example of a small group who are doing some pretty credible work that you can assist, right, or even be part of. Okay, I think we're plenty more. There's other groups. We'll share. Just for the sake of time, because I know people have schedules. What's left here, and I'll stick around the show until Yane kicks us out. I did put a presentation that our chapter for the Internet Society did, basically a year in review for our global board. And the reason I wanted to show you this was to actually just show something that these chapters do, right? Because still, we've just been talking about it. Like, what does it actually look like, right? So it's just a very quick presentation on, hey, this is what we've done this year. Here's our financials. Here's what we're continuing to do. Just so, again, if you've never seen something like this, you can then say you've seen it. So I'll wait till we officially end this, but that's what's left to show. So we actually did pretty good on time. I actually can't believe normally we're so bad at this. That wasn't that bad. All right, is there anyone else in another group that is here that would want to speak for a few minutes on some other group we have not talked about?
Yeah.
Yep.
Can I come up again?
Or,
Yeah. So, even though I'm active in IEEE, I'm not an electrical engineer, I'm a mechanical engineer. So I'm in ASME is another group. And I'm in a number of things. SAE is more vehicle related, not just cars though. Planes, trains, space, everything is in that. ASM, the Material Society. SAMPE is another material related society. And AIAA, the Aeronautics Society, is another one. There's a lot of these groups around, and some of them are not members of Silicon Valley Engineering Council right now, but they should be. Civil engineering is another. So there's a lot of groups around. And a lot of them frankly need help. You know, they need younger people to get involved and to, you know, help them over some of the hurdles, you know, of getting moving again. So think about it as opportunities there. But certainly Silicon Valley Engineering Council would love to have more members come in, more member groups.
Thank you, Ken. So hopefully this inspires you to just know here in the Valley, we have lots of potential, right, for not just networking, right? You want to actuate, you want to do things, right? You want to be the expert, right? That takes time, right? But we have the network of people to help get these skills. We have the opportunities. There's a lot of work to do, and we really want you to participate. So again, there's a lot of fun to this. It's not just work, right? This may sound like it's all work, but David, can you say something fun? Have we done anything fun? Right? Yeah. It's not just work, right?
We did a Christmas party.
How many beers were left over at that last event?
Yeah, just to double down, well, I would say that the socialization and the events are the side effect or the pro to what these societies ultimately do. Individuals with passion and a vision for advancing the knowledge base is what the societies are really all about. It's beyond just a meetup, right? So private sector may innovate on something, but then how it gets deployed, how it scales within, you know, our society is what these societies start to lay the groundwork for, have discourse and debate. So if you disagree wildly with anything Ron said, I encourage you to join the Internet Society so you can have that discussion and shape, you know, the course of internet privacy, openness, and where that heads, because this is really where all that action happens. And when we put events on with speakers, which are a lot of fun, you know, the goal though is to generate that discourse, potentially give ideas that you can then go apply within your jobs or within the projects that you're doing, and then come back and share that knowledge, right? So that we can continue to advance it. So it's a lot of fun in the process. You meet some great people who are like-minded and have similar interests with you, and will debate with you on the same level.
Thank you, David. All right, everyone. I don't know what the rules are for getting in trouble here. We'll take questions, but I will officially end it just so we don't get in trouble.
Yeah, we can hang out, network, and then they just want to do a postmortem with us.
Oh, okay. All right. So, yes, sir.
What if an engineer doesn't currently live here in Silicon Valley? Let's say they're in China or Taiwan, but their goal is to move here. Can they participate remotely before they come here?
Yes.
A lot of things, yeah. Certainly all these things that are on Zoom, like our meetings, yeah. All you gotta do is register.
The ACM meetings are on Zoom.
Sorry,
So
say it
I've
again.
had people join our Zoom calls from South America or Europe.
Some of them don't like the time zone things, you know, or something like that, but.
Yeah, for our like monthly meetings, we generally record them.
So we have a YouTube channel, sfbayacm.org. So if you miss it, the next day it'll be on
Yeah, you can also get a
YouTube
recording.
channel.
Yeah, so there's like presentational meetings, but then also like just monthly, like for the Internet Society, we record all of our board meetings, so they're all there. Would someone, generally speaking, I will say at a kind of the board level, we try to stick around with locals because we want people here to do it, right? There's a lot you can do online for sure, but just in most of our experiences, it feels meeting in person does tend to accelerate the doing more so than being remote.
If you want a job, you better meet in person, you know, that kind of thing. So.
Yeah, and there are local groups. Like we actually would prefer, if there is no, like if you're in China and you're like in a town where there is no chapter, make one. In that case, like the work between us, we would help you make one. In fact, it happens with the ACM, but I can't speak about that. I can't speak about the Internet Society. Our chapter is pretty much the only one creating ones here in the U.S. Like we're spawning additional chapters, and it's not hard, but it's also takes a long time, and a lot of things have to go right. We've had, out of the last 3 we've tried, we just launched the LA SoCal chapter this year. And then we've tried one in Nevada and one in Pacific Northwest. Both of those currently have stopped trying because of one reason or another. One was we'll just say it, was a banking issue, which I could tell you what to watch out for there. And the other one was a legal issue, right? Doesn't mean we can't get over it. It just means we run into different problems in different ways, and someone has to deal with that. And if it doesn't resolve quickly enough, people sometimes are like, I've had enough of this. I can't. So yeah.
That's a pretty common problem, unfortunately, these kind of logistical issues like that. A lot of the organizations, have the ability to help you. IEEE, for better or worse, there's a big New Jersey thing with a lot of staff people and finance and things like that, but they can be a pain sometimes too.
You're right. So,
Yes, the Young Scholar Program, the AI Summit for the summer program, this year we are concentrating local only. And so you don't see a lot of publicity for it. It's preparation. We are planning to open up for international attendees. So their big issue is a visa. Okay? So
They come in person, is that okay? They
Yes.
come in person?
Yes.
Okay.
This is for next year, 2026.
any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you for coming. If anyone wants to take a look at what something like this, please stick around. Otherwise, feel free to take off. Thank you very much for coming. And please see us at one of our meetings. All right, anyone want to see this? If not, you don't have to feel guilted if you don't want to.
Oh, see what?
It's just an example of something we produced to send to our board. So, all right, we'll go for it. All right, so basically a year in review of our chapter. All right, so one of the things that the larger organization does is classify the chapters based on their activities. Won't go through all the rules here, but this is the highest ranking you can get, and we've had the highest ranking for 5 years running now, 6 years running. So kudos to those who came before. This is the agenda of this document. A little bit of a whiz-bang, who are we? Just to show you one just tactical challenge that groups like us have to deal with is this right here. So not this facility at Google. We've ran events at their community space in San Francisco. When I first contacted them, they were like, who are you? Because I was using ron@gmail.com. We don't have, well, we do now, as of 2 weeks ago, we have actual sfbaysoc.org emails, but it turned out the person who bought that domain had left our group 10 plus years ago, and we couldn't get a hold of them. So we hijacked the DNS, got the DNS, but then Google wouldn't believe us because someone did a workspace, or what is it, Google, the Office, thing. We couldn't register for it because someone did it 10 years ago and let it lapse. So long story short, through a lot of saying please, even Google came around and gave us, now we have email hosted at Google. Yes, I paid for the domain. It's all, we're all good.
No, but if he didn't pay for the domain, then it should have been disconnected.
Yes, there's more to the story, but yes. Well, we'll just say it was way more work than for someone in the Internet Society should have had to done to get their domain.
Well, that's why you're the expert, right? You've gotten the bruises.
Yes. Just to our senior members, who the makeup of our board, kind of our basic financials. We're not billionaires. We do a lot with a little, and I love it for that. Here's our current board. We do have members who are out there. So I'll just, because he's not here to fight back, David is in Mexico. But he's, snowbird, we'll just say. He'll be back here in the East Bay here this month and be here for the foreseeable future. So again, lots of members. Another one, just to throw it out there, Gustavo is a member of Norello, which is what we were talking about, the ICANN extensions. So he's our representative there. ICANN fellow, PhD in AI. He's actually smart. I do the dirty work. When we need a brain, I just go to Gustavo, no problem. He's a member of InfraGard. InfraGard is a spinoff of the FBI. They actually do great meetings. I love those meetings. They're so actually informative because they actually have real data, right? Most of us have to go out and find data and make reports. FBI is kind of the other way around. Everybody just tells them what's wrong. So they get way more cooler data than I get. And those meetings are quite interesting. In fact, we just had one last 2 weeks ago on what should we do about post-quantum encryption. And the month before that was on what do we do about artificial intelligence taking over crime, right?
InfraGard has like 16 types of technology they're concerned about. Was this a meeting that covered all or just a specific?
Topical. So it was AI was the general theme, and this one was on post-quantum encryption, not electrical or health or not the main areas.
Focus areas.
Yeah.
Okay.
But great, another option for those in the Bay, right? It's elsewhere too, but we have it here. This is just showing what we've done, right? This is just the last year. We worked on a couple different white papers, and they range from AI to kid safety on the internet, right? So pretty good range. We did our elections, right? Running nominations. Charles, Mr. Mock here just had to go through this again for himself. But groups do this, right? People do this, and it keeps everything legit. The standing actions, that's just running the chapter. Chapter formation, I just mentioned this. We've tried to create other chapters. The current one, even though we've lost 2 and gained LA, we are now going to focus on helping Hawaii. So why LA, just to throw it out there? At a very high level, we're just kind of noodling why. Well, one is California's huge. But even just more tactical, there's Hollywood and gaming. It's not that that stuff doesn't happen here, but there's a lot of it in LA, right? They can focus more on all those things, and we can focus more on what's happening in the valley, right? It's just to help us split things up. We've done grant work. So this Beyond the Net is a great grant program from the Internet Society. This last one that we just finished up was to help migrant workers in Half Moon Bay learn how to get on the internet, learn how to use computers, right? You think, we all know this stuff, but believe it or not, there's still people who don't, right? And so even right in our own backyard, Half Moon Bay, there's organizations on the ground doing this kind of work, and we help facilitate that, and that's music to my ears. We've done our own events. Step back. One of the things we didn't talk about is the Global Encryption Coalition, which is a spin-off sponsored group of the Internet Society and many others. And they're, in short, are trying to keep encryption available for all of us. Right, so that you can imagine it takes a different form. Main thing is they do Encryption Day. They pick a day out of the year, October 21st. That's Global Encryption Day. And then in theory, all the members have a local event. We did our own attempt at this on October 21st at Google in San Francisco. I think it went well. It was our first attempt doing something like that. But we had 2 places. We started at Google, and then we ended at Cloudflare. So again, this is another nice benefit to being in the Valley. There are companies that parlay and help in their various areas. We did the training at Google. So we did encryption training, different tech. We did thought leadership track at night at Cloudflare, and it ranged from the impact of in just security in different industries, and we ended with Hart Montgomery, who's the CTO of the Linux Foundation, talking about post-quantum encryption. Right, great. It was a great time. And most recently, we did AI Day in February, similar format. Mentioned the 50th anniversary of the internet. Partnering with other groups. And again, it was a strange, second cousin, twice divorced, remarried kind of thing. We did this event because this group pinged our chapter to work with this chapter who was not even on here, ran by the IEEE. Right? So that's the weird wonders of working in these groups. Just a little more detailed. So this is 2025. So 2024 is 2025. Again, we're trying to do more grant work. There will be new elections. This is our next event for the Internet Society is Internet Day San Francisco. So there is a global holiday called the World Internet Day on May 17th. And basically, not so much in the US, but elsewhere. We're trying to change that. So David was just down in Peru last week talking to our local chapter there about what are they doing? Can we maybe work together to just have, and again, what's the agenda? Right now we're looking at, this is probably going to be Web3 / SCTP, HTTP3, right? Other modern kind of tech, just to teach people what these are, because a lot of people have never, a lot of engineers have never touched a lot of this stuff. And then in the evening, later, again, some kind of thought leadership component. And then we're planning on doing Global Encryption Day again. And the reason we want to keep doing these, like, it's one thing to have like a meetup with an ever-changing meeting, maybe a consistent theme, is we're trying to keep these every year now, even though we just started, because we believe encryption is being attacked. Like now in England, right? Prior to that was Venezuela. Who would have put those two in the same sentence for the same reason, right? It's kind of ridiculous. But here we are. Right? So we want these to turn into almost an annual report, right? Like, hey, in the last year, this is who's losing, who's winning, why they're losing, why they're winning, what can you do, right? When are you going to be affected? Can we project, right? Well, if this if England stops it, guess who's next? Us, right? So that's the kind of thing we want to do there. Okay, what have been our issues? Really, it's kind of same issues everyone, all these groups. This is kind of why, this is one of the main reasons we even had this event. Why are we having trouble getting volunteers? Prior to COVID, there was no problem. It was a different world before COVID. So COVID drained the bay, work from home, like that's part of it. Reduction of interest. I think part of this, and this isn't geared at a person, I think like in careers, it's hard to have a long-term job now for many different reasons. And it doesn't mean you are bad. There's lots of reasons why you got fired or laid off or this or that, right? So that's causing people to not have that ability to focus after hours because they're too busy trying to eat, right? So that's a problem. AI is actually a bit of an issue. Not as much as people say, but it is an issue, right? Maybe one thing here is actually all the meetups in the city, maybe not so much here, but in San Francisco, we are literally competing against 50 AI meetups every night. So people are like, should we talk to the Internet Society? Should we talk to the ACM? Or should we go to this Rager by Meta, right? I'd probably go to the Rager first and then go back over, but that's the competition, right? It's fun to a point, but it does split the focus.
Do all of them tend to be worthwhile, or only
No.
the occasional one? Most are not worthwhile.
I wouldn't say they're horrible. Most are just whatever, right? But some of them actually have been quite good. Because they know they need to be quite good to get the good people, right? So like Meta's last one, they had a $15,000 prize, top-notch facilities, right? Like they did a great job. But that's rare, right?
The AI pub crawl is probably more about the pubs.
Yeah. So what do we want from, we can help here. Like we need to get people an on-ramp to these groups to make it easy. If you just come to me, I have now suffered enough. I can tell you what we need. I did a probably bad job here, but if you come to the Internet Society, I will tell you we need someone to do this and this. Like if you just want something tactical so you're not scattered, I can help you. If you want to go to ACM, we got members here, same kind of thing. We need help to keep a good experience, to keep it going forward, and then you can grow, become more strategic, run the groups over time. And then again, just end it for this chapter. A couple things we're building now is the Wi-Fi walks. This is to actually get people just out and talking. So we're literally going to go judge parts of San Francisco and around how good their Wi-Fi is and talk about it as we critique it and get some coffee along the way. Yeah, so anyway, we're working on trying to make things interesting for more people. Sorry, just don't want to. Again, we're here to defend the internet. I don't want to spend all my time working on WordPress, right? I actually would rather be reading SB 1040 seeing why that one got rejected, and then seeing how someone's going to tie AI to encryption, right? Some crazy combination of laws and regulations and things. I can't do that if I'm always doing other things, right? I'm not saying I'm better or worse than anyone else. I'm just imploring, I need help, right? We all need help. All of us have things going on in our lives, and we can all help each other with a little bit of participation in any of these groups. Okay. Yeah, click the link, become a member. It is free, right? Free is good.
Can you go back to that just there?
Yes, sir. I have really benefited from these groups. I will just tell you as an individual, you don't have to be in as many groups as I am. I just happen to enjoy it. So I'm not, to be clear, I am not complaining about any of this. I enjoy it, but I would further enjoy it if we had more help. And that's really the message here. It's a lot of fun, get to meet lots of cool people doing lots of cool things. And I actually do feel like I'm making a difference. I mean, when I get to see the same people again and again, they help me, I help them, right? We go help other people. I love it. And we're in Silicon Valley, and there's no reason not to help in the technical arena. Okay, I think we have other, oh yeah, this is a paper or a blog that just came from Jessica Goodman. She was our last chapter president. She is a force in nature. She's now at Georgetown. Every time I see her, she's with some senator trying to push safety encryption. She's not even like, I mean, she's in our chapter, but now she's just doing it herself. She is the Internet Society, and I love it. This is an example of one of those white papers that we did. So another group we didn't really talk about here is the Linux Foundation. I'm the co-lead of the AI working group for them. Besides me being on here, the main thing I want to point out is we have now it's in alphabetical order, I can do this. Tom was on our board of ISOC, and now was the chair of the LA chapter to launch it, and now he's stepped down, now he's just an advisor. But again, Internet Society member, jumping in to help. Why? Anyone can guess why he helped write a paper on cloud native artificial intelligence? It's because he was part of oh my God, his crazy name, I can't think of it now. The Global Anti-Corruption Society or something, some hardcore group. He was like a director of to fight for internet safety. I have to look it up. Some crazy, oh my gosh, I should hang out with this guy. He's in MI6 or something. But anyway, serious guy, does serious work. He is now the head of trust and safety for all of that at GitHub. And he's in LA, but he's up here all the time too. So anyway, again, just other things. Cassandra, at the time of this, she's 15. Why is she here? Because just to show you could do different things. She does many things, but one of the main things she's known for is an interviewer. She's going to have her own tech TV show one of these days. She literally goes to every meeting and just interviews people, everybody, right? And just gets that. She's a good aggregator of real practical information. And in this case, she boiled down all the actors in this world and bring them all together. Her father is the head of developer relations at Neo4j, who's also very prolific and out there. So anyway, all kinds of, I'm just trying to, you can work with these people. This is an example of a group that's not here. Most of these people are not actually in San Francisco. Alex Jones, Agentic Stuff in Kubernetes, he's in London. Adil Zaluk, he is at Red Hat in Munich. Boris, North Carolina. Andre, London, Apple. Anyway, all these people all do this in their spare time. All right. And these are just pictures. There are benefits, right? It's not just all work. ACM library, all the papers, the award ceremonies, right? Lots of different kinds of work. We talked about all this. And as a reminder, this is what we need. All right. Thanks, everybody. Go buy something at the store. Yes.
So for like students like us, like what's your like dream or ideal like bridge between like our chapter and then say as we graduate and grow, join a bigger ones?